All right, for our background pieces, they are going to be super scrappy and you just need to have a lot of fun with these. So we're going to use like the mile a minute technique, where we are going to take our little bits and we are just going to start sewing them together and then pressing them and then adding to them again. So what you need to do is just grab your pile of scraps, just the background pieces that you have. I've got a bunch of things that are left over from other projects. They're all different sizes and lengths, and it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to start sewing these together and then getting them to the size that we need to and squaring them up. So I'm just going to take these to the machine and get sewing. All right, I have a few of these started. So as you can see, they're just random widths and they're random lengths of fabric. I'm not really worried about being perfect on any of these. It looks like I've got one longer and then two smaller pieces. So we're just sewing fabric together to make a larger piece. So we're going to trim that up a little bit as well. This one, so we're just going to press these so it's just easier to handle and deal with for the next step. All right, now that we have them pressed, we are going to kind of cut these apart and then sew them together again. So I can see that naturally this one has an end right here and right there, so I'm just going to trim those up. This one I might leave this length as well still. So this one has a start and a stop as well, so I'm just going to separate them. Looks like these are about the right length, so I can sew those two together and get that piece going. And I can change direction as well. So what I'm going to do is sew this to the bottom of this piece, and then we can add something to this one. Let's see what I've got here. So I've got this. So I'm just going to cut this part right here and sew that one to that. And then I have one more piece I can take to the sewing machine at the same time. And I'm going to use this silver dot, so I'm going to measure that and kind of just trim it to about the same length. So I'm not looking for perfection here, I'm just matching up. So I'm going to sew these two together, I'm going to sew these two together, I'm going to sew these together, and I'm going to sew these together, and then we can press them again and go from there. All right, I have my pieces sewn, and we are just going to press them again, get them workable, because with these little bits sometimes there's creases and weird angles and stuff, so we just want them nice and flat when we work with them again. All right, so now I can kind of see what I've got left. So I'm going to look at some of these pieces, and again, we are not going for perfection here, we are just sewing for some fun. So it looks like this needs to be trimmed off. I can either eyeball it or I can use my ruler. So I'm just lining it up with the long edge here and trimming this off. I can save this and use this for another piece. So I can add this to here. Maybe what I'm going to do, look at this, is like the same length. So I'm going to sew this piece to this really quick, and then I'm going to sew it to the bigger piece. All right, what I am going to do is I am going to decide if I'm going to sew this piece onto it or if I'm going to flip it and go that way. And I think I like this way better. So what I'm going to do is make sure that this edge is a little straighter. I don't want a lot of puckers or problems with my block. So even though it is more improv and you're kind of having fun, it is nice to have a nice straight edge when you move forward. So I'm going to straighten that one out, and then I'm going to check this one just in case and do a little trim if I need as well. Because again, it's not, if it's not super straight, it gives you some issues. So I just barely trimmed off a little piece right there. All right, so now my pieces are ready and I can go ahead and sew this piece to that one. What I'm going to do is start here at the top where I know the edges will line up, and then I can trim off the end when I'm done. So if you need to pin this in place prior to sewing, go right ahead, but you'll want to start at that top edge because you know you can trim off this extra when you're done. All right, now that we have that sewn, we're going to just give this a quick press, and then we can trim it all up. So it's got a lot of little fun fabrics in here. It's just very eclectic. This makes your background super fun. All right, so for this block, I only need it to be 5.5 inches wide. So what I can do is kind of see where things are. I don't want a seam in the 1/4 inch, so I might just come over here. And I am going to cut that right off. This is not wasted. This will go back in because we need quite a bit of pieces for our background. So I'm going to set this aside with my other pieces and repurpose it. So it is not a toss away. And then I'm going to cut it to the right size that I need. Again, not a toss away. I'm putting it over into my other pieces. This makes it a lot of fun because by the end you have a bunch of little pieces and they're a lot of fun to play with. So and actually with that one that I sewed together, I've got 2 pieces.